Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, which I've linked down in the description below, I used a really interesting team featuring two very strong duos in Weezing plus Regigigas and Volcarona plus Blastoise, built by the 2017 World Champion Ryota Otsubo, so we'll be playing a couple more matches with the team today. Details are in the description below, including a rental and a paste if you want to try out the team yourselves. Thank you so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoy, please show support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, kind of a fun one. I want to know what your favorite Pokemon song / soundtrack is. It can be between the movies or the games. I think for me, the Primal Dialga theme from Mystery Dungeon is one of my all-time favorite songs. But honestly, there's so many good songs in all the Pokemon soundtracks. So let me know your answers in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, getting into things here, and it's going to be a Solgaleo Kyogre team for the first game. I really like Solgaleo, and I kind of want to use it in an upcoming team, because I think it's just really, got good typing, and can be a very strong Dynamax option. So, given the Tornadus, I think it's probably going to be like a Brutal Swing variant, or a Foul Play on Tornadus to activate Weakness Policy on Solgaleo. As I've mentioned before, I don't generally love going up against Tailwind with this team. So I could go with Weezing plus Regigigas, but I can't really knock out Solgaleo effectively. So I'm actually leaning towards Blastoise Volcarona in this one with Zacian plus Calyrex. The idea here is that the Volcarona protects Blastoise from a lot of the damage, and the Focus Sash should help a lot. And if they lead with something that wants to max on turn 1, like the Solgaleo, you could potentially get a Yawn off into them and then put them to sleep. Yeah, I just I don't love Weezing plus Regigigas here because they have a lot of speedy Pokemon, and Tornadus can also increase the speed. And Weezing and Gigas is a lot weaker when your Regigigas can't knock your opponent out before they attack. So, I'm going to opt for this. One thing I could have considered maybe was Weezing plus, Zacian, and then just use Weezing to shut off the Prankster on the Tornadus. But then I also wouldn't get an attack boost immediately, so I probably wouldn't KO Tornadus. I actually don't think that really works. And I don't think Calyrex is one-shotting Tornadus either. So let's see what they opt for. Okay, it is just going to be Tornadus Solgaleo. That's generally fine with me. The play I'm leaning towards making on turn 1 is just a Rage Powder into a Yawn. Yeah. Thank you for my opponent's shoes here. There are a lot of possible plays you could make. You could just Tailwind. Tailwind, max Solgaleo, and then just max Rockfall makes a lot of sense. I'm okay with Volcarona fainting here because it gives me a free switch-in into Zacian. Then I would probably just Gigantamax Blastoise and then double protect to stall out a turn. And then, let them fall asleep. So they are going to go for the max here. Yep. I'm very much okay with that. The whole idea here is that I can't really stop my opponent from getting good speed control up, so I at least have to stop the amount of offense that's coming out from their primary Pokemon, which is Solgaleo here. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Rage Powder from Volcarona. Let's see what they opt for. Okay, it is going to be the Brutal Swing. Yep. So, it's a pretty common way to activate Weakness Policy on Solgaleo, although previously you would see it with things like Metagross, for example. And they have Max Rockfall, yeah. One interesting play could have been to Dynamax Volcarona and then helping hand Max Flare into it, but I just don't think that makes too much sense when I've got Yawn on the Blastoise. Because the thing is, now I get Yawn off, and then turn 2, I can just double protect. The problem is that they'll still get Tailwind up in this game, right? And I'm going to eat up a fair amount of damage on the Zacian as well. They'll probably Steel Spike or Quake me, and that obviously still hurts significantly. But, don't really have another choice here. So, we're going to bring Zacian out now. And one thing we can use towards our advantage right now is the fact that my opponent can't really deal too much damage with Tornadus. Now, they probably have Brutal Swing, Hurricane, Tailwind, and then Taunt would be my guess on its moveset. The thing here is I could actually just go for the Cannonade as well, but I don't want to take any unnecessary damage here. If I were my opponent, I would probably just target the Zacian, but I'm fine going for the double here. So, we'll max guard, and we'll just protect. I'm still going to take a lot of damage through the protect, especially if they max Quake me, but not enough where they knock us out, right? And then the key thing here is that this completely stops their momentum. The only issue here is if Solgaleo has a way, they have electric type attack to set up electric terrain. That would actually end me immediately, I think. So, But then you'd have to be Max Lightning into the Zacian, and I feel like the odds of that are... Actually, if you have it, that would just be the most consistent play. So we'll see. I expect them to try to Tailwind here with Tornadus. I think that would make sense. So we're going to protect a Max Guard. Stall the turn of their Dynamax. There's Tailwind. Yep. And then Solgaleo here. It's going to Max Quake, and they actually target Blastoise. Okay, beautiful. So that works out as well as possible. We don't end up taking any damage here. Now, they will get Tailwind up, and that's pretty scary right now. So the question is, can I really stall out your Tailwind? I guess the other scary thing here is, obviously, Solgaleo is a pretty huge threat to me offensively right now. And I don't want to risk it waking up. So I'm actually okay just going for a Cannonade here. Ooh, Substitute is interesting. Sub is very interesting. Because if I could get a sub... I mean, the thing here is, like, I could just try to get the knockout onto Solgaleo, but then it would give them a free switch-in into... Kyogre. Rillaboom is even scarier. So, I'm definitely going to Cannonade into Solgaleo right now. It's just with Zacian, do I want a Behemoth Blade or do I want a sub? I'm not even sure I get the knockout on Solgaleo if I double up into it here, so I'll just go for the sub. Okay, they go for Taunt, which is fine. So we've seen Taunt, we've seen Tailwind, we've seen Brutal Swing. I would think Hurricane is their final attack, right? Which is what I was talking about earlier. So, nice Taunt to prevent me from subbing. The thing here is that Tornadus, like I mentioned, doesn't really deal much damage, so we can leverage that towards our advantage. Yeah, I don't think we're knocking out Solgaleo there anyway, so I don't mind trying to go for the substitute at least to punish them. I think this comes down to... Well, even if Solgaleo stays asleep, it's still a tricky position to play out of, just because, like I mentioned, Tailwind I think is really hard to go up against when you use this team. But I think now Solgaleo should faint from another Cannonade. The only interesting thing here is I actually might want to intentionally not knock out Tornadus, right? I'm taunted with this, though, so I basically have to sacrifice it. How many turns of Tailwind do they have left? 2. So I could go for the double knockout here just to deny them a second Tailwind. I think I probably should go for that. Could have been interesting to just try to KO Tornadus last turn. Me not trying to KO it may have punished me, but I didn't know if they were going to have Taunt there either. Okay. I'm going to Cannonade Solgaleo here, and I think I actually will just go for the double knockout right now. Try to accelerate the game a little bit more. They're smart. Okay, they switch out Tornadus. That's a really good play. But they actually go into Urshifu, which I feel like benefits me. Wow. Okay, I'm really surprised about that, because I feel like you just gave up one of your best offensive tools to clean up the game with. And that Urshifu would have threatened my Calyrex immensely as well, but now I should just get a double knockout. We are very fortunate here as the Solgaleo does take another turn of sleep, but you know the odds are obviously in our favor for Solgaleo to take a 2 or 3 turn sleep, and here it does end up being at least a 2 turn sleep. And yeah, we don't get the knockout here, but thanks to the Cannonade damage, both Pokemon will faint here. So I get my opponent switching out Tornadus there. The idea is to try to conserve it and maybe set up a second Tailwind, but I think now you should have Kyogre plus Tornadus as your back 2, right? Maybe they still actually just end up winning because you can just pick up a double knockout on both of my Pokemon right now. And that's pretty scary. I don't know the item on the Kyogre. And the problem is now my max with Blastoise just ends. It's their last turn of Tailwind. I don't think Tornadus is going to have Protect here, unless you're actually running Protect, Brutal Swing, Taunt, Tailwind. I would really think it's Hurricane, especially with Kyogre being on the team. So the question here is, can they pick up a double knockout this turn? Zacian is very bulky. It's max HP. So I should be able to survive a Water Spout here. And I've got Leaf Storm in the back as well with the Calyrex. So here I'm leaning towards just going for Hydro Cannon onto Tornadus and Behemoth Blading onto it to try to just get a knockout onto it immediately. Okay, they do go for Hurricane, so it's a question of whether or not Water Spout finishes us off on the Zacian. Let's see if we can survive. Oh, that actually gets the knockout. Wow. So they're probably... They've got to be either, I think, like Mystic Water or Choice Specs there. With that... Okay, there's actually still potentially a way to win if they're Specs and they're not, like, max speed on the Kyogre. And, like, we actually outspeed them under Tailwind with Scarf Calyrex. Yeah, that's got to be an item boosting Kyogre special attack there. Well, that's unfortunate. What else could I have done in that position? I could have protected the Zacian, I guess. But the idea there was to trade both of my Pokemon, essentially, for a knockout onto Tornadus. But I didn't get, you know, I just lost both Pokemon there. If I protected with Zacian, then I get a free switch into Calyrex. I guess Water Spell would have still KO'd me anyway, right? You would just Tailwind Water Spell anyway. So, I'll just Astral Barrage here. But, yeah, this is why playing against Tailwind with this team I think is quite difficult. And I had an opportunity to knock out Tornadus the turn I got taunted. I am faster, though. Okay. I could have contemplated Leaf Storming, but the reason I never like Leaf Storming there is because I just can't knock out the Tornadus from that position. So the question is, can I take a Water Spell from the range that I'm at? It is single target, but they're at 50%. Okay, let's see. And Calyrex survives. Oh man, this is why Choice Scarf Calyrex can be an absolute monster. Now we should just get the KO with Astral Barrage. Because that's the thing, right? Most players aren't going to EV to outspeed, like, Choice Scarf Calyrex. You normally EV to as a benchmark to outspeed, basically, like... For Kyogre, with Tailwind, you know, I would assume you'd want to outspeed Regieleki with max speed. That's, like... Regieleki hits, what, 277? So, you're probably, like, maybe one speed stat just above that if you're not max speed on the Kyogre. And yeah, we just get the KO with Astral Barrage. Leaf Storm there is tempting because obviously in that position, Kyogre is the main Pokemon threatening with damage, but Astral Barrage, I think, had to have been the correct play because I lose very easily to Tornadus just going for Hurricane the next turn. So yeah, that was our out. And that's why, you know, you don't give up, even like because you're not 100% sure of what your opponent's speeds are in that position. I thought if Kyogre were max speed, then it could outspeed us with Tailwind up. Since this is Modest Calyrex and not Timid Calyrex as well. But this goes to show how valuable Choice Scarf as an item can be on Calyrex Shadow Rider. So very, very happy about that. And that was a really close game. I think, like, Tornadus plus Solgaleo was a really tough duel for me to go up against. And if I led, like, Weezing plus Gigas, they can just Brutal Swing and then, like, KO my Weezing on turn 1 of the game. And that's really bad for me. And so I just couldn't really bring that into the game. But you could see the effectiveness of Yawn on Blastoise plus the Volcarona combination as well. So, yeah, that was really, really intense. Before we move on to the next game, I quickly wanted to just do some damage calcs here because, yeah, I was pretty surprised that the Kyogre Water Spell one-shot my Zacian. And so this is the reason I was surprised. With max HP and 12 special defense investment, Water Spout from Mystic Water Timid max special attack Kyogre never gets the one-hit KO. And so given that the Calyrex Shadow Rider outsped Kyogre there in the end, they were either Modest, which I think is more likely, or Timid, just not with as much speed investment. And so I think Modest plus Mystic Water is the set that makes the most sense in my head, because here, yeah, you have a 56.3% chance to one-shot the Zacian, and then you're also obviously slower than Calyrex Shadow Rider, because even with max speed and Modest and Tailwind up for Kyogre, you're actually still slower than Modest Calyrex Shadow Rider, which, yeah, is really just a testament to Calyrex's base speed, right? And so... yeah, I think they were most likely Modest. We would have had some issues if they were Timid plus Choice Specs, because that allows you to outspeed my Calyrex in that endgame, and it allows you to just one-shot the Zacian as well, but I think Timid plus Specs is not really as common of a set. And so, yeah, it goes to show how even something as simple as a Nature Choice or EV investment or Item Choice can really go a long way in that game, but Choice Scarf Calyrex really pulled it out for us there, and I wasn't expecting that, so that was a very, very pleasant surprise, but very intense first game for us here, and let's keep things going. Alright, getting into our next game of the day here, and we are up against Zacian, Dialga, Urshifu, now Ego, Ditto, and Grimmsnarl. Okay, this is a really interesting team. Dual Steel Restricteds, which I feel like is not super common. Okay, how good are Weezing and Gigas here? I don't think it's particularly bad. I'm nervous about Sucker Punch from Urshifu as well as from the Grimmsnarl potentially. My problem with Blastoise here is that it doesn't deal very much damage into Dialga, but I guess Zacian can solve that problem for us. So do I want to go with Weezing plus Regigigas or Blastoise plus Volcarona here? Yawn is just so valuable with Blastoise. My fear of Weezing Gigas here is that the Weezing gets crushed by Dialga, and then Dialga can max Wormwind and Steel Spike. It just doesn't feel consistent enough for me to go with, so I think I actually will opt for Blastoise Volk again here. With Zacian plus Calyrex. Like, as I mentioned in using this team previously, what's really important is identifying when you think your Weezing and Gigas can last a couple of turns, and I'm just not very confident on it here, because, first of all, my opponent has a Zacian and Urshifu, right? Those are already two Pokemon that can threaten super powerful fighting type attacks into Regigigas to begin the game, and, like, we're not going up against a physical Pokemon that wants a Dynamax, right? Dialga is special, and like it just is so good into the Weezing. They're gonna go with Grimmsnarl and Dialga. Okay, so like Fake here is definitely a possibility from the Grimmsnarl right now. I think I'm gonna opt for kind of how I played game 1, which is try to just put my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon to sleep. Because if you get a Yawn off on turn 1 as they try to Dynamax, that can be really powerful. Now, my fear here is that the Dialga has Max Lightning. That would allow them to set up the Electric Terrain, just like I talked about in that first game. But, yeah. Sometimes you have to understand when you can't just, like, push the tempo immediately, right? Now, if I went with Weezing and Gigas here, I actually think it would have been maybe okay. Because turn 1, I would have been able to just protect the Weezing and then Max Quake into the Dialga, which actually isn't terrible. So, I'm actually kind of surprised they let the Grimmsnarl here, because I felt like it doesn't honestly contribute very much to them. If anything, I think it actually maybe benefits us, because now we have the advantage of, like, targeting around it, for example. Kind of like what I was trying to do in that first game around the Tornadus. And, you know, basically not allowing my opponent to have 2 very powerful Pokemon out on the field simultaneously. So, okay. They do have Fake Out, but they target Volcarona and actually get Flame Body off, which is kind of funny. Does not have any Rage Powder, though, so can they knock out Blastoise here? Okay, they just go for Max Quake. I think we should survive even if you're Life Orbed here. And they do target Volk. Wow. And that does not KO us either. That's actually as good as I could have asked for, to be honest. Yeah, not bad. And it is Life Orb. So Max Quake there is interesting, right? My opponent went for it because they wanted to get the special defense boost to take attacks from my end a little bit better, but in the end, we actually get pretty good value there. I don't mind just going for a Follow Me here. I even question whether or not I want to Cannonade immediately. Let's see, I've got this Scarf Calyrex in the back. Even increased stage of special defense. We've got Zacian back here. I can even protect Volk this turn, right? I mean, they could just Wormwind or Quake to get the knockout onto it. I don't think I'm going to switch this out because I don't have a switch in that's safe. Really don't want to throw away something by Max Quaking. Okay, I think I will just hit Cannonade here. The reason, by the way, that I was considering not going for a Cannonade is because I want to extract maximum value out of the residual damage from Cannonade. And it's like, this turn I don't really need to KO the Grimmsnarl. I'm not going to anyway, especially if they're getting another special defense boost. So the idea there then is to, yeah, stall out a turn. But I think it's better to just go for it here immediately anyway. I'm mainly curious about the Grimmsnarl moveset. I think like Fake Out, Fake Tears, Thunder Wave / Scary Face, and then like Spirit Break, Sucker Punch are all moves that make a lot of sense. When you see Grimm and Dialga, you know, I think there's like 2 ways you can really see Grimm. It's, yep, there's the Sucker Punch. Okay. And they're going to go for another Max Quake. Okay, so no Max Lightning. So you can see what the Yawn single-handedly is giving me a huge advantage in both of the games that we played today. So I'm glad to feature how you can like use Yawn and play passively in the early game. Part of what makes this really strong as well is like, you know, first of all, your opponents don't get that much value out of their Dynamax as a result because they do fall asleep after the second turn. And then the other really good thing for us is that you're using Cannonade a little bit later on in the game, right? And so by going for it right now rather than earlier, I get a little bit more value out of the residual because Dialga is going to take, instead of like 3 turns of Dialga's Dynamax, right, eating up the Cannonade residual, it's only going to be 2, if that makes sense. Okay, so I know they have Sucker Punch on the Grimmsnarl, so I can't bring it out in Astral Barrage. I could do it as a bait, because in this position, my opponent was probably thinking, well, actually, I mean, they're at +2 special defense. I'm not going to KO with Astral Barrage, and if I'm not getting a special attack boost, I just don't think it's worth it. So I'd rather just go into Zacian here, I think. So we've seen Fake Out, Sucker Punch. I would think surely Fake Tears on Zacian. This turn is also interesting, where it's like, do I just go for a lot of damage? They're going to have their Zacian in the back for sure. I've only spent 1 turn of my Dynamax here. I don't want my Zacian to get, like, paralyzed and, like, eat up speed control this turn, so I think I'm okay just going for a Cannonade onto the Grimm, and then just protecting here. Just because I think having a speed control move here on the... Oh, wow, okay, they switch out Dialga. I think that's smart, honestly, and it's a missed opportunity for me to just go for an attack. I wonder if it's Ditto coming in. Yes, okay. That is smart. There's a good chance my opponent's going to have 2 Zacians out on the field. I should have targeted the Dialga slot just to cover for the Ditto switch in. In my head, I was like, oh, I'll just get a knockout here. But that's a fantastic switch in. I could have punished that really heavily. And then they greatly also fake tears the Blastoise, so really nicely done there. I could have actually probably just won the game this turn if I went Cannonade into Zacian. Or actually just doubling up into the Dialga switch out. So this was a turn where maybe I played a little bit too passively. Now, eating up that special defense drop right now isn't the end of the world. But the scary thing is, like I mentioned, now my opponent can have 2 Zacians out on the field, right? And that's pretty scary. Oh, interesting, though. They bring Dialga back out. Okay, I'm actually quite surprised by that. I'll take it. I mean, you're at +2 attack, which is really bad for me. So, I think I'm going to Cannonade here, and then I'm just going to protect this turn. Oh, I just protected, actually. Oof. Well, for assuming that Zacian is their final Pokemon, what do I want to do here? I'm not a max attack on the Zacian, so I wonder if I could survive a +2 Behemoth Blade, actually. I could also see them protecting with Ditto. I've got Scarf Calyrex in the back, so I actually think I'm okay just going for a Cannonade here into close combat. Because the Zacian is not max attack, so I'm not sure a +2 Behemoth Blade actually even gets to KO. And there was also a chance they would protect in that position, I think. Okay, it does get the knockout, though. Yeah, the other thing is, I feel like they're probably Choice Scarf then, to be honest. This is going to be a very close finish, I think. I think it may boil down to how many turns of sleep Dialga ends up taking. Ooh, not knocking out Zacian there I think is actually really good. It'll be really interesting if you are just Choice Scarfed here and then you switch out. Yeah, this was a game where I basically didn't contemplate the Ditto switch, and I could have punished my opponent really hard. And I went for a play that was, like, fine that turn, but it wasn't... I was just worried too much about speed control from their Grimmsnarl, and I think, like, in this game, I actually don't really need to worry about, like, a Scary Face or a Thunder Wave, because I most likely am slower than them anyway. I just don't love the idea of getting paralyzed in that position, for example. Okay, so we should be faster with Scarf Astral Barrage here. I have Helping Hand. It's probably our best bet. Okay. I really think this actually... Because I don't think the Helping Hand plus Astral Barrage KOs Dialga here. Okay, they're switching out, so I think they've got to be Scarf then. Oh, it's Urshifu. They didn't bring Zacian. That is really interesting. Okay. Well, we'll get Helping Hand Astral Barrage off here, but now... Wow, it's like... if they had Zacian here in the back instead, I actually think we would have had this one. We do get the knockout onto Dialga, though, which is very nice. And the thing is, now your Ditto copies my Blastoise. Huh. Does a Dark Pulse KO the Urshifu? Do I have to Hydro Cannon? I think I do. Okay. I mean, surely you Sucker Punch me here. I just am not confident in Dark Pulse KOing, so I think I will just... I don't have any turns of G-Max Candidate left, yeah. Because Blastoise should win the 1v1 against their Ditto here, right? So, yeah, I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon here, and just the Astral Barrage. I did not expect Urshifu to be their final Pokemon. I thought it would be Zacian for sure. And, of course, I have Will-O-Wisp here, but I can't go for it because I'm choice locked. Otherwise, I absolutely would have just gone for it here. Okay, they go for Yawn. That's fine. Because you can't protect, because I know your moveset. Nice, and we hit Hydro Cannon. Oh, but I guess the problem is... I don't think they ever do enough damage with the Blastoise, right? Like... Even if I eat up 3 turns of sleep here, I think it's still fine, to be honest. But now I fall asleep. So let's see if they are Choice Scarf here, because they played it like they are, and they have outsped me both times it's been Ditto against my Pokemon. Okay, they forfeit, so I think they definitely were Choice Locked there. And they were probably just hoping I would target the Blastoise in that position rather than Urshifu, because then you can protect the Urshifu and then win the 1v1. But yeah, did not give them that opportunity. So yeah. That was a really interesting one. I didn't think my opponent needed to not bring Zacian, but I think it was actually a smart decision. I was more confident in winning the endgame there, actually, if they had brought Zacian out. The other thing I was scared about was them using the Ditto to copy my Calyrex Shadow Rider, and then them being Scarf and then winning a speed high against us. pretty sure they were scarfed given how that endgame played out. Like, they outsped my Zacian, they outsped my Blastoise, and then they forfeited immediately as soon as Urshifu went down. So, yeah. Ditto's a really interesting Pokemon. I think this was a game in which I actually had a ton of momentum on my side after I got the yawn off on turn 1, and my opponent just being willing to switch out that Dialga after the second turn was a really, really smart decision. And helping hand on Blastoise made a huge difference as well here, right? Because it allowed me to just actually get that one-hit KO onto Dialga. They're probably just like timid or modest, max special attack, max speed. So, yeah. Really happy to feature how strong this Blastoise plus Volcarona duo can be. So, let's look for another one. Our final game of the day here, and it's Groudon Yveltal. This feels like it should be a Weezing Gigas game. They have no switching into Max Strike, and Gigas outspeeds almost everything. Yeah, there's no way it's a Blastoise game. They have Gastrodon. I think it's just Weezing Gigas, Calyrex plus Zacian. Volcarona can be interesting because they have Groudon, but nah, I think it's just, this is just very clearly Weezing plus Gigas. It's not like we definitively win with it, but I think this is exactly the kind of matchup Regigigas wants to go up against, because my opponent does not have too many Pokemon that outspeed me, nor do they have a very good way of increasing their speed either. Their best bet would probably be a Charizard Groudon lead, max Airstream into Precipice Blades, I think. That could be a little bit scary because, like, Gigas is max speed here. If Charizard is also max speed and we speed tie, that actually makes all the difference here, because if I get the Max Strike off first before they Airstream, and then I get a Will-O-Wisp off onto Groudon, that's game-changing. If I were in their shoes, I would lead Charizard Groudon. I think that's the scariest combo we can run into. Gastrodon, I guess, is pretty scary as well, because it can Max Quake us. Yeah, so they correctly find Charizard plus Groudon as the lead. Okay. It's always pretty safe to protect Weezing on turn 1. Definitely going to strike the Groudon. I mean, without Sun Up, I think Weezing should actually survive the turn regardless. I think it's better to just protect here, though, because the Regigigas isn't really in threat of getting knocked out here. So I will just strike the Charizard and just protect on turn 1. Because I think Charizard's probably going to want to max in this game, right? Okay, so they are max speed, but that's no surprise. Like, with so many Charizards, you're just going to run Timid, max special attack, max speed. Okay. Yeah, I mean, even in the worst case, which is them doubling up onto Gigas, it's fine. You know what the best case here? It would be them going for a G-Max Wildfire, because then I just outspeed Charizard the next turn. I think Groudon Swords Dancing here is a very likely possibility, which is why I was contemplating Will-O-Wisping immediately with Weezing, but I don't want to risk getting crit on Weezing on turn 1 and then literally just losing the game because Gigas doesn't get any slow start turns, like, denied. Or slow start canceled. And then so I would just, you'd be starting the game with a slow start Gigas, and then that essentially just is, like, game over for us, to be honest. So, we're going to protect Weezing. It'd be great to see a Groudon protect here, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, they're going for the Airstream Precipice Blades play, just like I called. I had Sugar Berry here, so maybe I could have taken Blades. Oh, actually, it could still be Swords Dance here on Groudon, right? So let's see. What did you opt for? Yep, it is Life Orb. Nicely done. Okay, so they do Swords Dance. This is where turn 2 of the game gets really scary, in my opinion, because I've got Will-O-Wisp. Really may just come down to a speed tie here, right? I really wish I had Hailstorm right now. That'd be really nice to just, like, finish off the Charizard with. The other part of the problem is that Groudon's getting speed. Oh, actually, no, I'm negating its speed boost, actually, so that's fine. Another Airstream will KO me. Or Wildfire here. So I could actually target Groudon, because then I just come in and Astral Barrage to finish you off. The other play would be to just Max Strike here into Charizard and then Will-O-Wisp into Groudon. I'm just like trying to think if I lose the speed tie, what happens, right? I don't really feel like I have a great way around it, though, to be honest. And I lose the speed tie. Okay. That's a little disappointing, but that happens. Literally a coin flip there. And, like, kudos to my opponent, right? Because I think if they led anything but Charizard or Groudon, I would have had a very significant advantage in this game. But they found the absolute best lead, and they made the absolute best plays as well. They played turn 1 and turn 2 perfectly, essentially. This is a wasted Max Strike into Groudon, or into Charizard. But the idea here was to knock out Charizard and then drop Groudon speed and then just burn them, right? So, yeah. But unfortunately, losing both speed ties is obviously going to really hurt us here. So then the question is, like, okay, how can I play this game any better? I don't love leading Blastoise and Vulcan this one because it's so weak into Charizard. I do have Yawn, but they might have Gastrodon in the back, right? Maybe it's like mitigating the early game and it's White Herb as well. That's pretty cool. Okay, still potential. Nah, I think it's really hard to win from this angle because I need to get 2 powerful attacks off with Gigas. And so, like, if I gotten Strike off there on a Charizard and burn the Groudon before they press with Blades us, even if Weezing faints there, we're in a much better position. But now I'm staring down a +2 Groudon, which is the problem. I think I can play towards the Leaf Storm crit here with Calyrex, though, but they should just bring an Yveltal and Sucker Punch me. Ooh, they bring an Incin, though. Okay, maybe this gives us a slight opportunity. I think I need to go for a Leaf Storm crit. Yeah. I wasted the last turn as well, but the thing is, obviously, like, I was playing towards hopefully winning the speed tie there, and I need to KO the Charizard, obviously, before I can attack with the Weezing, so, yeah. We are max speed, right? I just want to double check that. Because if not, then I play this game completely incorrectly, but yeah, we are. Now, it's very important to be max speed on Gigas, because you want to outspeed Urshifu and everything lower than that. And the thing is, ultimately, I accepted that there was a 50% chance I just lose the game off of speed time. Those are not great odds, so. But the thing is, I think, you know, I was like, well, from my opponent's perspective, they also have to identify the correct lead here, which, you know, credits to them, they absolutely did. Okay, let's think about how we can still win this game. It'd be a Leaf Storm crit into Groudon here, in my opinion. I'm actually going to hard switch. Because I would need a crit, and I would need for the Incin to try to KO the Calyrex, and then win the game with Zacian in the end game, in my opinion. So, how do I beat Charizard plus Swords Dance Groudon? I have to protect on turn 1. If I didn't protect there, I'd actually just lose the Weezing immediately. I don't think I have a very definitive answer here, to be honest. I think I found my best combo, but my opponent also just found their best combo. They actually switch out Incineroar into Yveltal, okay? If Leaf Storm crits here, we actually have a pretty good chance of winning the game, I think. Or if Groudon, for some reason, isn't bulky enough to take a Leaf Storm. That's a great play by them. This is a fantastic play. Yeah, so they don't even give me the opportunity to crit. Now you pressure my Calyrex with a Sucker Punch, so you can just Sucker Punch and Precipice Blades. Yeah, really, really well played. I think this matchup is very volatile for both of us there. Even if I had won the speed tie, I don't know if I would have been in the best spot, to be honest, because my opponent found the one combo of Pokemon. I think any other lead combination, and, like, we're in a really good position. My opponent recognizes, well, Insane, Grimmsnarl, they're not going to really do much, especially if I don't have my abilities off with them. Yveltal's really, really weak into Regigigas. You have to worry about getting one shot by, like, a Max Hailstorm as well. And Charizard and Groudon actually is just really strong against really anything I could bring, I think. And Weezing Gigas, in my opinion, is just by far the best duo, but it's countered by what my opponent did, right? Okay, I got Zacian in safely. There's always... I guess they could switch Groudon out here. I'm playing towards them throwing the game at this point, I think, to be honest. That and Precipice Blades misses. So I'm going to switch out here, because I can see Groudon switching out into Incineroar to try to take the Leaf Storm, especially if they're worried about me being Focus Sash, right? So let's see. Get Gigas in. Wow! Nice play. Okay. Although if I were Focus Sash there, I would definitely have doubled up onto the Groudon. So like, maybe I missed out on an opportunity there. Nicely done. I think the switches my opponents made these last 2 turns have been fantastic. Because like, I could have angled for a Leaf Storm and a Behemoth Blade, just doubling up there to try to KO. Even if I get the knockout there, to be honest, I don't know if we're in a super good spot. Like, I just did not get maximum value out of Gigas here. And they have Precipice Blades, and it double connects. Okay. So, let's say I had gone for the Leaf Storm Behemoth Blade, double up onto the Groudon, we actually get the knockout there. You know, then you've got Incin back in, you've got Yveltal out, my Zacian's at neutral, I've got to switch out Calyrex. I think I still lose the game, to be honest. Like, Yveltal is such a bad matchup for Calyrex, right? because they have Sucker Punch and Incin's also pretty bad. So it would have been interesting to contemplate not bringing Calyrex outright in this game. I still think it's okay to bring, but I think from my opponent's perspective, you're almost always going with the 4 that they brought. I don't think you ever bring Grim here. You could leave Gastrodon, I suppose, but it is really passive. So this is fantastic Pokemon selection from their end. Like, they found exactly the right 4 Pokemon to bring in this matchup, and then they also found the exact lead matchup that gave them the best chance of winning. So yeah, I don't want to waste any more of their time. So let me think about where I could have improved. Because I've talked about the lead matchup a lot. Calyrex and Zacian are both pretty terrible into just Groudon and Charizard in itself, and it also doesn't cover for, like, Yveltal as a lead, plus, like, Groudon, so I really don't like leading either of my restricteds here. I guess they didn't bring Gastrodon out, so Blastoise could have been interesting. Something like a Blastoise plus Weezing lead is actually compelling, and in a best of 3 I'd consider it, but definitely not in a best of 1. Like, I would, yeah, it just feels really hard to feel comfortable with that, especially when your opponent has a Gastrodon in team preview. So, that could be an adjustment as well. I could still be Volk plus Blastoise as well, but that works a little bit less effectively in this one. The interesting thing is Blastoise, or Weezing if I bring it out, shutting down the weather. But it's not like Cannonade one-shots the Charizard anyway, to be honest. I could go Weezing Blastoise, so protect the Weezing Yawn into the... I don't even know how I played the game after that, though. I was going to say Yawn into the Charizard. But, like, Zacian still has a pretty tricky time in this matchup thanks to Incin, thanks to Groudon, thanks to Charizard. So, yeah, they have a very good anti-Zacian team, right? Like, Groudon is very good against Zacian, Yveltal is very good against Calyrex, so our restricted matchup wasn't amazing here. And then, yeah, they found a very, very good lead combo as well. And so that's how it is sometimes in Series 12, right? You're not always going to have the best matchups. And, you know, I always say even if it's a bad matchup, you can win. But in this one, my opponent had near perfect execution. And so when it's, like, not a great matchup and your opponent plays as well as they did, that's going to often result in losses. And that's okay, right? It highlights one of the weaknesses of Weezing plus Gigas, which is your opponent being able to attack you before you can attack them, right? And Charizard's the one Pokemon on their team there, like, gives them that opportunity because Regigigas outspeeds everything else. So, yeah. That's going to be it for this episode. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right. Peace.